The trouble with people like you and me is that most of the time we only see what we want to see. We don't notice the half of what is going on around us, and what is going on around us is quite likely to be a mouse. In fact, there's probably one not far from where you're sitting just now. We underestimate mice, you know. In fact, it is thanks to a mouse that the famous Christmas carol, Silent Night, ever saw the light of day. Now, Silent Night was composed in Austria in 1818 by a village schoolmaster named Franz Gruber. And it was while I was doing some research into just who Franz Gruber was that I found myself late one night in this library. I was cold, I was tired, I was just thinking about going home when I heard a little scuffling in the corner. Now, I'm not one of those people to leap up bravely and peer into corners that scuffle in the middle of the night. No, I quickly got my notes together. I headed rapidly towards the door. Suddenly, the scuffler appeared at my feet. It was a mouse. And not just any mouse. This was a direct descendant of a nonny mouse. No, I know. You don't know who a nonny mouse was. Well, neither did I until that night, when I heard this story, which has been handed down from generation to generation by word of mouse. Every spring, when the snows melted, Karl Maraucher set off on a journey which took him halfway across Europe, repairing old organs and installing new ones. He was one of the finest organ builders in Austria. Now, whether he ever knew it or not, Karl never traveled alone. He was always accompanied by a mouse organist, a rare species of musical mice. Wherever there was a Maraucher organ, there was a mouse organist looking after it. The mouse organist on this particular journey was a nonny mouse. Basically, Nonny had always been very, very shy. To the other mouse organists, she was Nonny the nonentity. But inside herself, Nonny knew that she could be somebody. Nonny had decided it was time to stand on her own four paws and make something of her life. One of the first jobs for Karl and Nonny was in the little town of Oberndorf in Upper Austria.
God's greetings, Father Nosler.
Oh, it's you.
Very well, thank you. And how are you?
Nonny had heard about this Nosler person. He was a miserable human being. He was such an old windbag that behind his back, the local humans nicknamed him Pater Nosler. And behind his back is exactly where Nonny wanted to be. Nonny crept into the church to find Fay Mouse, the resident mouse organist. But Nonny couldn't find Fay anywhere. She hurried up to the organ loft, and there she found a dove who had terrible news. Fay was dead. She had pulled her last stop and gone to the great organ in the sky. The St. Nicholas organ no longer had a mouse organist. Nonny would have to take matters into her own paws.
You people in trade are all the same. Give it half a chance. The church isn't a charity, you know. I cannot possibly allow you to work in the organ unless my organist, Mr. Gruber, is present.
Well, kindly let Mr. Gruber know I'm here. I'd like to start work immediately.
Gruber's a schoolmaster in Arnsdorf. It's a good 3 miles away. I doubt if he'll be able to get here by the end of the week.
Not before the weekend? But I can't wait till then. I've got a long journey ahead of me this summer. I doubt if I'll get all the work done as it is. Couldn't your assistant supervise the work?
My curate couldn't supervise a tree. In any case, he isn't here. He's probably down in the...
Joseph Moore, the curate of St. Nicholas, was by nature everything old Pater Nosler was not. He was gregarious and jolly, and everyone liked him, except Pater Nosler.
Oh, good to see you. Just in time, the organ's on its last legs.
Oh, dear.
Rubbish, Moore. The organ will be fine.
I'll look after him, Father.
I cannot have Mr. Maraucha working without Gruber.
Never mind, Joseph. I'm sure everything will be all right. But I've a long journey ahead of me this summer, so I have to leave now.
But you won't be around for another year. And I know Franz was desperate for your visit. He'll be terribly disappointed. How will I tell him?
Leave that to old Paternoster. He seems to have a way with words. Tell Mr. Gruber I'll see him next year. Yes.
Meanwhile, Nonny was inspecting the organ. The bellows were in a terrible state. It would be a big job for Carl. Where was he anyway? When she couldn't see him in the church, she knew he must still be outside. But he wasn't there. And where was the wagon? Suddenly, Nonny realized the terrible truth. Carl was gone, and Nonny was frightened. She'd never been alone before. Surely Carl couldn't have gone far. At last, she spotted him in the middle of the town. But it wasn't Carl at all. Exhausted as she was, Nonny kept on going. Nonny reached the edge of the town. Little did she know that she was being watched. Nonny ran as fast as she could, but her muscles ached. She could hardly run. The cat was getting closer, closer. She could barely breathe. Only a miracle could save her now. And that's exactly what she got. A miracle.
Shoo! Go away! Pick on someone your own size.
Nonny collapsed, an exhausted heap of quivering fur.
Little mouse. Hello, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you.
Nonny could hardly move. With the whisker's worth of strength she had left, Nonny wanted to thank the miracle for saving her life. She tried to squeak. Nothing came out. When Nonny finally recovered from the shock, she found herself behind bars.
Not a great deal is known about the social behavior of these mice, except that they are gregarious. Now, who knows what gregarious means? Yes, Hilda?
Hungry.
No, it means they like company. Yes, Felix, what is it?
My mouse is all right.
Oh, really? Well, in that case, let's all have a closer look at our little visitor. Bring it down the front, Felix. Gather round, children.
Before she could work out where she was or what had happened, Nonny found herself surrounded by small humans,
Very small,
like the one called Felix, who'd saved her from the cat. It was rather embarrassing, and suddenly she felt very, very shy.
All right. Now that the mouse has survived, let's not frighten it to death. That's it for today. Class dismissed. Bye.
Look, Father, she's really tame. She lets me stroke her.
She seems to know a friend when she sees one, eh?
Hello.
Hello, dear.
Look, Mummy, my mouse.
Well, look at that.
She's all right.
Yes, but you two won't be if you don't hurry up.
Father's right. It's time we set off for Obendorf.
Any word yet of the organ mender?
No, shouldn't be long now. Just hope he gets here before the organ falls to bits.
Or I'll have no bellows to pump.
What's she doing now?
Obendorf? Organ mender? Bellows? Franz must be the organist at the church in Obendorf, and Felix worked the bellows that Nonny knew were about to disintegrate. She had to get to Obendorf. But how?
I think she wants to be let out.
Well, why don't you let her go?
Let her go.
She's a wild creature, Felix. She'll be happier outside where she belongs.
I suppose you're right.
What we go then?
But Nonny didn't want to be outside. She wanted to repay Felix for saving her life.
There you go, little mouse. You're free now.
But Nonny refused to be left behind. Her place was with the organ in Obendorf.
I think she wants to come with us.
Obendorf? Oh, why not? And out of old Paternoster, now there's one more church mouse, eh?
Nonny was going to start her career as a professional mouse organist with her very own organ. Her life would never be the same again. months passed. The weather changed and the winter winds blew cold across the valley. But whatever the weather might be doing outside, Nonnie was cozy in an old slipper that Felix had brought her. On the days when Franz came to practice, Felix always came on ahead so that he could spend some time alone with Nonnie. In the church, Nonnie had quickly settled into her new life. She might still be shy, but she certainly was not a nonentity. But it wasn't easy. If she had had one wish, she would have wished that it was spring and Karl Moracher was there fixing the organ. Because as soon as she plugged one hole, two more appeared. But she didn't have one wish. It wasn't spring, and Karl Moracher was snowed up in his house in the mountains. Nonnie missed her old home, but now she was mouse organist at St. Nicholas. It was her duty to keep the organ working until the thaw came and Karl could set off on his travels again. One morning, Felix arrived at the church earlier than usual.
Nonnie, little Nonnie. Look what I've got for you today. Christmas is nearly here. Isn't it exciting?
Nonnie wasn't too sure exactly who Chris Mouse was, but the sausage looked absolutely delicious.
Oh, Father's coming.
Talking to yourself again?
Not exactly.
You know, when I was your age, my best friend was my cat.
Don't mention in front of...
Of course, I forgot. Terribly sorry. Well, what do you say we forget about the... and the mouse and run through the music? All right?
All right.
Right.
In the organ, Nonnie was busy tending the bellows. Then she noticed that the biggest and the most bothersome of her many patches was coming away. There was only one thing she could do. Her sausage had to serve a higher purpose and plug the hole in the bellows. But would it hold?
Yes, Father?
Gruber! Come down here. I want to speak to you. And bring that boy with you. I have an errand for him.
Come on.
Nonnie wanted to know what was so important that old Pater Nossler had to interrupt Franz's practice. So she was glad when Felix decided to take her with him.
Christmas at all. And where is he? I'll tell you. Down in the tavern, smoking that revolting pipe of his and fraternizing with the riff-raff from the river. Tramps, a lot of them. He lowers the whole tone of the parish.
I'm afraid we came a little earlier than planned, Father. I'm sure he'll be here on time. Meanwhile, perhaps you and I could talk about...
Don't change the subject, Gruber. I want more here. And I want more here now. Send that boy to fetch him, and then perhaps we'll talk about your music.
Run and find Father Moore, would you please, Felix?
He's in the Riverman's Tavern, make no mistake.
Felix and Nonnie hurried out into the cold air and headed towards the river. Nonnie hadn't been outside the church since the day Felix brought her back from Arnsdorf. She had to admit it was nice to get away from the organ for a change. Felix liked having an excuse to come down to the quay. The rivermen were a pretty rough crowd. And because most of the time they were on the move, they didn't have a priest of their own. There weren't many priests like Joseph who were prepared to mix with them, and it made Pater Noster's sanctified blood boil, especially the singing.
What's this? No smiles? Why so serious?
It's Father Nostler, Father.
Ah, I see. So you've been sent out to drag the stray back to the house of righteousness, is that it?
Oh, where's that wastrel more?
That's more like it. Well, I was just on my way. Your father and I were going to go over the music this afternoon, so Father Nostler was wasting his valuable breath. A Merry Christmas, everyone! A Merry Christmas! Goodbye! So what's Father Nostler's problem today, Felix?
I don't know, but he seemed pretty annoyed about something.
Moan, moan, moan. That man was made to moan. Everything's going to be fine. It's Christmas. Christmas is wonderful. The music is wonderful. Your father's wonderful. You're wonderful. I'm wonderful. What could possibly go wrong?
Nonny agreed with Joseph. Everyone was wonderful. And come to think of it, so was she. After all, she was the mouse organist at St. Nicholas Church.
Think I should pop in the vestry and say Happy Christmas?
And risk excommunication? I would leave well alone if I were you.
What's niggling him today?
You.
I've hardly seen him.
Nonny couldn't wait for Christmas. All that music. And nothing was going to spoil it for her. Not even Pater Nostler.
Let's just forget about Pater Noster for the time being. And tell me what you think of the processional. I've reworked it slightly.
When Felix put Nonny down, she realized she was feeling just a tiny bit pocket sick. The organ could look after itself for once, while she took a short breather. But no sooner had Franz started to play than Nonny was hit by a flying sausage. Oh no, the patch had blown. The bellows had finally burst. Nonny knew she could never repair the hole now. She was absolutely mortified.
Felix, that mouse of yours has been making a feast of it.
No, she hasn't. She's been trying to patch them up.
Oh, come on, Felix, don't be ridiculous.
Even I, with a few beers under my belt, would have a hard time believing that, my boy.
Look, the mouse clearly preferred the bellows to Mama's sausage. I probably should have put down a trap.
A trap? Don't say such things. What will my mouse think?
Felix, a mouse does not think. A mouse sees bellows, a mouse eats bellows. A mouse is a mouse is a mouse. There's nothing we can do. This is a job for the organ mender, and he won't be here until the spring.
Sometimes Nonny was absolutely moustified by the things humans said. After she'd spent all her time repairing the bellows, why on earth would she want to eat them?
Don't listen to the mouse. I know you didn't eat those bellows.
As usual, only Felix understood.
Well,
Just have to do it without music.
no music on Christmas Eve?
But what will Father Nostler say?
Well, what can he say?
If only he'd let Carl fix the organ when he was here. As usual, he'll blame everyone but himself.
Well, no organ, no music, and that's that.
Then Nonny saw the answer. Joseph's guitar. But she'd have to act fast.
I suppose we could recite the carols. No. Well, I just don't believe it. Christmas Eve of all days.
Felix, if that was your mouse, there's going to be big trouble.
Oh, no harm done.
I know you're not going to believe me, but I think my mouse is trying to tell us something.
I don't believe you.
And what's he trying to tell us? Don't hang the guitar on a peg.
Franz, why don't we use the guitar tonight?
A guitar in church? Listen.
I've got a poem I wrote in one of my more inspired moments. If you set it to music, it would easily pass as a carol. Listen. Christmas Day means Christmas cheer. Kiss me quick and pass the beer.
Oh, really?
I was teasing you, my friend.
Still the night, holy the night, sleeps the world hid from sight. Mary and Joseph in stable bare. Watch o'er the child beloved and fair, sleeping in heavenly rest. I mean, it's lovely, but Father Nosler would never allow it. He'd say a guitar in church was sacrilegious.
Why tell him?
He's not going to like it.
No, but he might.
Nonny was pleased everyone liked her idea about the guitar. It would help make up for the mishap with the bellows. She couldn't wait for Franz to put Joseph's words to music.
How are you getting on, Father?
You know, these words fit perfectly with a little tune I've been hearing in the back of my head. Still the night, holy the night.
That's good, but what's next?
I'm not exactly sure.
I thought you might need this.
Oh, thank you, dear.
Nonny thought the melody sounded wonderful so far.
Isn't it beautiful?
Nonny had a few ideas of her own, and she was determined to tell Franz, somehow.
Well, I'll let you get back to work. Coming, Felix?
No, I'd rather stay with Father if that's all right.
Of course you can.
Oh, Felix, look at this mess. Your mouse has walked all over the score.
Oh, Nonny, what have you done?
Wait a minute. There's a pattern. E, E, C. I don't believe it. What an amazing coincidence.
Hardly a coincidence, but to tell the truth, Nonny was almost as surprised as Felix when she heard her first attempt at writing music. It was a masterpiece. Nonny couldn't wait for the evening to come and to hear it sung in the church.
And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you, ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to all men.
At last it was time for the world to hear Franz's carol. But would old Nosler notice the guitar and stop the whole thing?
Still the night, holy the night, sleeps the world, hid from sight. Mary and Joseph in stable bed,
Savior, since thou art born, Savior, since thou art born.
Paternoster had been so angry that he'd stormed off into the vestry without as much as a Merry Christmas to anyone.
That was wonderful.
Did you really think so? Hello. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Felix may have thought the carol was wonderful, but not everyone shared the same opinion.
Father Nostler would like to see you in the vestry.
Happy Christmas. You best stay here, Felix.
Nonny knew Father Nostler wouldn't like what they'd done, but she had never expected this.
Because I've written him a letter, that's why. How dare you bring a guitar into my church and turn my mass into a bawdy sing-song? I'm surprised you allowed yourself to be so easily led by this degenerate. You're finished, Moore. Do you understand? Finished. As for you, Gruber, if you want to go on playing at St. Nicholas, you better find some suitable music. Music for the organ. But until there is an organ, we won't be requiring your services.
No organ meant no job for Franz. The family couldn't live on his teacher's wages alone. It was a catastrophe.
Come on, I need a drink.
And what did Nonny have to show for all her efforts? If she'd been a proper mouse organist, this never would have happened. She vowed then and there to put things to rights. The beautiful carol which Franz and Joseph had created was now just a crumpled piece of paper. Nonny felt she was a disgrace to the whole profession of mouse organists. Instead of repaying Felix for saving her life, she'd just made everything worse. Her idea of the guitar had resulted in Joseph being sent away, for when the Archbishop received Paternoster's letter, he realized that to leave Joseph as curate in Obendorf was simply to encourage relations to go from bad to worse, so he gave him a small parish of his own in the mountains. In a way, it was all for the best, but a lot of people were sorry to see him go, especially Franz and Felix. Nonny blamed herself. She was a miserable failure. There was nothing to do. The days were dark and gloomy, and the only bright spots were when Felix came to visit her. Felix talked about everything. His friends, his family, his thoughts, his dreams. And like all mouse organists, Nonny was a very good listener.
If I can get good enough, I want to go to the music school in Salzburg and become a great musician like Father.
Slowly the months went by. The snow began to melt, and spring finally came to Obendorf. Nonny knew that voice. Nonny had never been so happy to see anyone apart from Felix, and she couldn't wait to find out which mouse organist had come on the cart this year.
Mr. Moroka, how good to see you.
Ah, Franz Gruber.
Thank you for letting us know you were coming. We certainly didn't want to miss you this time, eh?
How is the patient?
Expired, I'm afraid.
Ah, Father Joseph predicted as much. Where is he? Down by the river?
No. He's been sent to another parish. He had a disagreement with Father Nostler, I'm afraid, and...
Ah, Father Nostler. How are you this beautiful morning?
About time, Marauka. About time. Gruber, I leave it to you to keep an eye on things. We don't want any unnecessary expenses on the bill, do we?
No, Father. I'll take care of it.
Nothing like a few words of good faith to begin the day.
Nonny quickly discovered that the travelling mouse organist was E. Norm Mouse, notorious for his insatiable appetite.
Pass me in another piece. Christmas Eve of all nights. What did you do?
Joseph played the guitar.
The guitar?
So I wrote a little tune to one of his poems, and we sang it with guitar and choir accompaniment.
It was wonderful.
Yes. Unfortunately, Paternoster didn't seem to think so. Gave him the perfect excuse to write the Archbishop.
I'm sure Joseph's going to be much happier on his own. But I'll tell you, I would like to hear what kind of Christmas carol can get a curate transferred.
Yes, well, unfortunately, Paternoster destroyed the score. And I'm doing my best to forget the whole incident.
He seems to be...
Franz may have been trying to forget, but Nonny hadn't.
My son seems to find animals easier than people. Takes after me, I'm afraid.
Wise boy.
Saved this mouse from a cat. It seems to have become his best friend.
Nonny knew exactly what she was going to do.
Nonny, come back. Where are you going?
Mice can be rather special.
This was the moment Nonny had been waiting for.
Where are you, Nonny? Nonny, come out. Oh, there you are. Father, look what my mouse found.
Your mouse found this?
Yes, she pulled it from under the music cupboard in the vestry.
How very strange.
Please, Mr. Maracha, will you play this?
La-di-da-da, la-di-da-da, ya-da-dee, da-da-da-dee.
It was so good to hear Franz's carol again.
Something, doesn't it?
You have something, my friend.
Do you mind if I make a copy?
Take it. The sooner the whole thing's forgotten, the better.
Nonny could hardly believe her ears. Franz had given away their song, just like that. She wasn't quite sure what to do. But then Nonny heard a little squeak. Of course, E. Normouse. Nonny quickly told Norm all about the song and how important it was that all the humans in the world should hear it. Perhaps the mouse organization could help. Now it was all up to Norm. There was nothing more Nonny could do, and it would be quite some time before she heard anything more. As the months crept by, Nonny often wondered how reliable Norm would turn out to be. He did spend an awful lot of time eating and then sleeping it off. Had Silent Night been forgotten or lost? Had he gobbled it up? In the meantime, Felix had heard that he had been accepted at the music school in Salzburg, where he would be starting the new term in a few weeks' time. Nonny wasn't sure what she'd do. She would really prefer to go with him, but she didn't want to leave Oberndorf until Norm came back again. then she heard that familiar sound.
Franz Gruber!
Ah, Carl! How are you, my dear man?
Very well, thank you. Hello, Felix.
Hello, Mr. Maracha.
Ah,
How are you?
Boy, eh?
Nonny couldn't wait to find out what the mouse organization had done.
Have you come far today?
Norm had travelled all over the country. Nonny was a little ashamed of having harboured any doubts, for in fact Norm had excelled himself and had quite a tail to twitch. Wherever Carl had been, the song had gone with him. The mouse organists exploited every possible occasion to make sure the song was gradually discovered by all sorts of people. And when there were not enough copies to go round, the mouse organists made new ones with whatever came to Paul. They left it here, dropped it off there, passed it on, and were ingenious in presenting it whenever possible, until finally they got it to the Strassers. Now, the Strassers were a famous group of Tyrolean singers who travelled far and wide giving concerts. They were enormously successful. If they included Silent Night in their repertoire, then thousands would hear it, and the mouse organist's job would be finished. Not surprisingly, the Strassers loved it. So Silent Night travelled with them all over Europe. Nonny was ecstatic. In no time at all, the song would be famous. At last, Nonny felt she had repaid Felix for saving her life. All she had to do now was to sit back and wait. Or so she thought.
Have a good journey.
When the time came, Nonny went to Salzburg with Felix, and they started their new life at the music school. But Nonny never stopped thinking about Silent Night. She expected to hear any moment that it was famous. But the news never came. Until one day...
Father!
Franz hadn't told Felix he was coming to Salzburg. He had wanted it to be a surprise.
So, how have you been?
Absolutely fine, Father. Things are going really well. What's that?
Oh, just something I thought might amuse you. What do you think of that?
It's your song.
I haven't got all the notes right. I'm amazed it's in there at all.
Wait a minute. It says here, a genuine Tyrolean folk song sung by the brothers and sisters Strasser, author anonymous.
Anonymous? Nonny was appalled. She'd only helped a little. It was Franz who deserved the credit.
But, Father, that's not fair. You wrote it.
What difference does it make, eh? As long as people are enjoying the song, that's all that matters. Since you've still got your mouse.
Why don't you at least make an attempt to tell someone that you and Father Moore wrote Silent Night?
Nonny knew what it was like to be shy and mouse understood. But she felt that Franz was carrying it a bit too far. Oh, what could she do? What? Then she saw it. The Strassers were giving a concert. If Franz went, he could tell them quietly and modestly who wrote Silent Night, and then they could tell the world. But no matter what she did, Felix and Franz just wouldn't get the message.
Felix, it's just not worth the trouble. I came close to losing my job last time. You don't want that to happen again now, do you? Eh? Come on, let's go and see if we can find something to eat.
Once again, Nonny had no choice but to take matters into her own paws. She would have to go to the concert herself. Nonny had waited patiently for an opportunity to tell the Strassers who really wrote Silent Night. It was beginning to look as if it might prove difficult, even impossible, when...
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm the Royal Choir Master, don't you know? And I was wondering whether you could tell me who wrote that little carol. It would be simply ideal for His Majesty's Christmas concert.
The man above her. He was the King's Choir Master. What luck!
I believe Michael Haydn wrote it.
Michael Haydn?
Michael Haydn?
All his manuscripts are here in the library at the music school. Ask Father Ambrosius, he'd know.
Worse and worse. First, Abe Nonnymouse had been given all the credit, and now it was Michael Haydn. Who on earth was he?
Ambrosius, music school. I'll do that tomorrow.
Nonny knew it was time to clear this up once and for all. But how? She spent the next day waiting and waiting for the King's Choir Master to call, but he never did. Everyone knew the song Silent Night, but now no one would ever know who had written it. There seemed nothing Nonny could do.
Oh, a royal seal.
The royal seal.
Music. Dear Father Ambrosius is very interested in a delightful little song I heard. I think it's entitled Silent Night. Yeah. I understand the composer is Michael Haydn. Would you be so kind as to send me a copy for the Royal Carol Service? Oh. No. Michael Haydn again. Must have written hundreds of delightful little songs. It will take days to find an original manuscript. An excellent project for one of the boys. Give them something to do.
And that boy must be Felix. Nonny couldn't let that letter out of her sight.
Boys, attention, please. Please. Here, you may sit down. I just had this letter from the Royal Choir Master of Berlin. He wants someone to do a little research on Mr. Haydn, Mr. Michael Haydn. Now, any volunteers?
Nonny willed Felix to raise his hand, but it didn't work. Nobody, including Felix, was going to volunteer. So Nonny finally did the only thing a mouse in her desperate position could do. Up his trouser leg.
Gruber, thank you very much. Come out here, will you? Now, Gruber, this song, Silent Night, by Mr. Haydn.
Sorry, sir. With respect, sir, it's not Mr. Haydn's.
I beg your pardon?
Haydn didn't compose this.
Oh, then who did?
My father.
Your father?
Yes, Franz Gruber. He wrote this, with a little help from a friend.
The King's Choir Master received the score of Silent Night with a letter from Franz himself explaining the whole story, or almost the whole story. And that Christmas, the Royal Choir sung it in front of His Majesty the King of Prussia, and it was sung every Christmas thereafter. The words were translated into many different languages. A family of Tyrolean singers took the carol with them on tour of America and introduced it to the different German settlements that they visited. And gradually, Silent Night was adopted as a traditional part of the American Christmas. During the American Civil War, and again during the First World War, the voices of the opposing armies joined together in the still night air of the Christmas truce. And briefly, the song brought a moment of peace to continents torn apart by war. Franz Gruber and Joseph Moore became famous. Franz was offered a better job in a bigger town and didn't have to worry about earning enough to live on anymore. The room in Arnsdorf, where he taught, still serves as the village school, and his house is preserved as a museum. Joseph spent the rest of his days happily in his own parish high in the mountains. And in Oberndorf, the river Salzach flooded its banks and washed away all memory of the miserable old Paternoster. So you see, this really is a true story. But until now, no one had ever really heard about Nonny, except Felix, of course. And you may just want to put all this down to coincidence, but as Nonnie herself once said, God works in mysterious ways, and coincidence is sometimes just his way of remaining a nonny mouse.